Hey Brock, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm just wrapping up work. You want to cruise by? Cool. I'll see you in about 15. All right, man. Later. Oh, there he is.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. Have a
Woo!
seat.
Ah, thanks.
Cruised
Dude.
over on your
Yeah.
electric bike.
Yeah, dude, I just got it. I absolutely
How
love
is
it.
that? Yeah, is
It's
it pretty cool?
It's awesome. It goes like 35 miles an hour. Full charges last like 40 to 60 miles. It's just incredible.
It's awesome,
And the
man.
charger's like the size of your laptop charger. I couldn't complain. More people need to be using this because it saves you
I
tons
love
of
it. I'm
money.
gonna check it out after we're done here. Mind if I take it for a spin?
You better take it
All right,
for a
man.
ride.
Hey, listen, I was making myself a cup of tea. I
Yeah.
thought you might enjoy it. It's chai. I don't know if you like it.
Dude, come on. You know Chad's my favorite.
I know it's your favorite. Cheers, man.
Mazel tov. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, it's a little hot, but that's all right.
So how's your day?
Dude, good. Just been really busy, man. I can't complain. I just got the bike earlier, put it all together.
Okay.
How about you?
It's exciting. Yeah, good. Just actually wrapping up work.
Yeah.
Busy day, but good, man. Feeling productive.
You know what's funny, man? I was watching some videos earlier, and it's kind of crazy because it was my good friend Cantrell. You know him. And it was really about people that he looked up to, his heroes, his inspiration. And, we've had multiple conversations before.
Right.
But I guess I've never, asked you, who is your hero,
That's a good question. There's definitely probably a list in there. I'm sure, but I gotta say what comes to mind, top of mind. I gotta say Elon Musk. And here's kind of how I justify that. And I think I tell that to most people. They'd go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he's a pretty incredible person doing pretty incredible things, right?
Absolutely, man.
But I even relate it down to, and I'm not much of a comic book person, but I
Yeah.
do, in some sense, feel like if we were living in this world of heroes and villains,
Yeah.
Elon Musk is this comic book hero who is just doing these incredible things, moving society in positive directions forward, doing amazing things. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah.
Electric vehicles, the Boring Company,
Yeah, that's
making
insane.
life more convenient.
Yeah.
Of course, PayPal. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, that's where it
that
started,
changed,
right?
everything. And then, even his neural lacing company, where he's, trying to position humanity in a place that can coexist with artificial intelligence and work successfully. I mean, just some incredible stuff. So I gotta say, man, my boy Elon,
Yeah.
like what an inspiration, right?
Truly
Of
an
our
inspiration.
ages.
Yeah,
for sure.
I like how you put that, like heroes and villains, and in today's society, there are heroes and
We got some villains. We got some villains.
We've got
But you know what? This
villains.
isn't a political show.
No, of
We're
course
not
not.
going to get into that.
No. That's not what it's about. But it's about feeling, safe and secure, right?
Right.
And I guess Elon creates that, right? So it's pretty awesome. Getting back to what I just kind of said, like, was like safe and secure. I was thinking earlier today, I know that you own a cybersecurity company, right? But or cybersecurity firm, but I don't really know what that means or what that really entails.
Yeah, I've been doing cybersecurity for better part of 15 years. That's something I've been very passionate about, and the world we're living in today. Unfortunately, there is an off balance to the power that cyber criminals have, right, and hackers, and businesses. And what's happening right now is cyber criminals are targeting both businesses and people, everybody, right? Anyone who has exploitable assets. I started a cybersecurity company in January of this year, and the whole concept behind that is really bringing baseline cybersecurity to small businesses that traditionally wouldn't, know how to or be able to afford it. My packages are very much positioned around kind of the enterprise technology, but packaging that and bringing it down to small and medium-sized businesses in an affordable way. It's kind of been an interesting trend to watch over the last couple years, where you'd see the big companies, like Target and Anthem Blue Cross and eBay, and the list goes on, right? For companies who have had major security breaches, and they've learned their lessons, and they've invested millions and millions of dollars, right? Deep pockets. And their hackers are still going after them, and they still are getting owned. Today we learned the SEC was hacked. Of course, the recent Equifax hack.
Dude, man,
right? There's still some high-profile things happening, but what the cyber criminals are doing is they're starting to target the small and mid-market, right, businesses, because still a lot of exploitable assets, high-value assets, but a relatively low investment in cybersecurity. I mean, there's companies that have hundreds of thousands of really valuable records, whether it's credit cards or social security numbers or whatever it is, but their investment into cybersecurity has been minimal because it's not really a challenge that they've had to face. Right? Just in the last couple years, we're starting to see this in the mainstream, and so really that's what the company's all about, is bringing affordable cybersecurity to small and medium-sized business market.
Dude, that is now I get it a little bit better, and I think that's incredible, helping out the people that, I don't want to say the little man, but definitely the people that are going to need it most, right?
When I got to say, a big part of it is education. Huge part of it, right? And when I say education, we're talking your accounting department, who huge target, HR department, big targets, management teams, and even executives that don't necessarily know how to identify the emails that might use tactics like social engineering, and asking them to wire money or open up attachments that downloads malware. Education can cut it off before it even becomes a problem. And I'm not saying that's 100%, right?
No,
I mean, these a lot of attacks, there are some sophisticated attacks out there that no matter how much education and even investments into cybersecurity, it's still pretty tough. But if we're talking about bringing the common denominator up to a baseline, it's a game changer in my opinion, and that's obviously cybersecurity is my passion.
Yeah, of course, I can tell.
One of my passions, right?
Right.
So, so that's that started my own firm after doing it for about 15 years. Kind of with a little touch, and not focused on enterprise, but on small businesses.
Thanks for sharing that, man. I seriously, with cybersecurity, I think it is so important, and especially in today's world, talking about the bigger companies with the Equifax hack, right? Everyone knows that, right? But helping out the smaller companies where it's going to matter most, right? It's going to make it or break it for some of them. If they get hacked in a big way and they can't afford it, then they could become insolvent, right? But having someone like you to help and educate them, I think is humongous, and create protocols within their business. But every person and every business has a crazy story, right? I've shared a lot of mine with you, me being a hairdresser.
Right.
You've heard a few, but share kind of one of yours that comes to mind.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of crazy stories. One of them sticks out, and this is the thing with being in cybersecurity. My business is trying to stay on the proactive side, right? And relate it a little bit to insurance, but in these days, if we look at statistically speaking, I should say, there's a good chance you're going to become a victim of cybercrime, and that's just how it is.
Of course.
So we're trying to be on the proactive side, bring up the baseline of cybersecurity so we can prevent an attack, not respond to an attack. Every once in a while we get those calls where we have to respond to an incident. One in particular that really does stand out. It was a pretty large company, global presence, manufacturing company, probably about $500 million in revenue.
Wow.
Sizable. they called up, and the initial concern, right, more of a meltdown, was that $10 million had been stolen.
What?
Right, so that was what prompted the investigation. $10 million stolen. Later found out that this organization, they were working on funding some business initiatives with the bank to the tune of about $10 million. And while they were working with their bank, a hacker got control of one of the senior managers' email account. Basically, stole their password, logged into their account, watched it for about 6 months, and waited essentially for the target, right? How they were going to exploit this company now that they had access. Well, they waited till the right time, that being a negotiation with the bank of a $10 million loan. The hacker took over communications of this person's email, and they set up all these rules so that this person wouldn't find out. Emails were being automatically deleted so that it wouldn't raise suspicions and all that stuff. And ultimately, they got the bank to change the wire account information to wire it to the hacker's bank.
What?
Instead of going to the business. And this is not uncommon. This is not uncommon. This is one of many examples, right? And what are the lessons we learned here? Well, number one, hacker was in the email for about 6 months. Password change policy. Right. Number two, just visibility on, someone had been logging in from Nigeria, right? After we did the incident response, we saw in the records, plain and simple, that someone had been logging in from a, call it an emerging threat geographic location.
Yeah.
And, there's just many lessons learned out of it. But at the end of the day, this could have been prevented
Of course.
with what I would call baseline security, right? Baseline things that can avoid these large and many times unfortunate events.
And I'm sure some of these things that you share with these companies can even help everyday people, right?
Well, that's right, yeah. And really, what I think it comes down to is education. I mean, it always starts with education.
Yeah,
right?
it does. Education is the most important thing in life,
That's
right?
right.
It doesn't matter what you do, what business and whatever it is you do in life, education is the key. And things are constantly changing and evolving. And if you're not staying up to date with that, then you can get left behind, or you could get attacked. You could get this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah.
And so, educating your clients, educating my clients, educating everyone is just going to make the world a better place.
That's
so,
right. This is a blockchain network.
Yeah.
So I do have to share one more quick story
All right,
that has to do with blockchain.
Yeah.
One of the trends that I did see a lot, in doing incident response,
Yeah.
is when organizations were breached, and we're talking a server's compromised, right? Someone somehow got remote access to the server. Many times we would find out is these systems, whether it's a server or a workstation, they would be turned into mining rigs for cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
Predominantly, in the last couple of years, it was Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But cyber criminals, they basically look at, okay, I have access to an asset, right?
Yeah.
A computer, a server, whatever it is. How can I exploit that asset to get the most out of it? And there's many different ways. I mean, I've seen everything from setting it up as a VPN server for Chinese internet users and selling it to them so they can get access to stateside resources.
Yeah.
Circumventing the firewall. I've seen it turned into dark web marketplace, right? Selling illicit things as part of a dark web service. I've seen it turned on for many things, even trying to find social security numbers and stuff like that, right? The kind of the standard stuff we've seen. But kind of what is interesting in all this is the hackers are turning to cryptocurrency as the most valuable asset that they want to get out of these systems, right? So if we would, statistically speaking, more than 50% of the systems we saw that were compromised, they're simply being used as mining rigs. And I just found that as pretty fascinating, right? There's this whole world of
Yeah,
all the
I know
things we can
this.
use
Yeah.
this system for.
That's what
We're going
these-
to turn it into a mining rig, right?
Wow.
So pretty interesting.
Wow,
Pretty interesting stuff.
that's crazy. All right, so just staying on this topic of craziness, man. Um, you know, I know what you're doing. You know, you are converting a large portion of your 401k into digital assets,
Right.
cryptocurrencies. But here's the thing. If you would have asked me 2 years ago or told me, hey Brock, do you want to take your 401k and take it out and turn it into cryptocurrencies, I would have been like, are you freaking crazy? Like,
All the hackers are doing it.
exactly, right? All the hackers do, so you might as well be doing
Right,
it.
right.
But fast forward 2 years later, I understand, right?
Right.
I fully get it. But I want you to share with me and the people that are going to be watching,
Right.
right? Why, right?
Look, man, it wasn't too long ago that you introduced me to this space to a point where I fell in love with it. I mean, look, like I said, over the last couple of years, I've seen it. I know what Bitcoin was. I followed it a tiny bit, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, of course.
Once I started, really researching it, learning what it is, come on, what this technology can do to the world, to various sectors. I just saw this revolution.
Absolutely.
I mean, could probably relate it to what the internet did to the world,
Yeah.
right? Equally, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's going to change things in such a significant way. So, I'm thinking to myself, well, if we have something that has so much potential, so much promise, so much capability to do what at least I believe it can do, and what it's already doing. I mean,
Of course.
we see the proof in companies like Ethereum and companies like Omizigo, and that they are changing the way people are doing things, right?
Absolutely.
So anyways, long story short, I've been hearing kind of here and there people selling off all their assets, and some of them who did it in the early days, and they're set for life as of today, right?
Yeah.
They're set for life. That wasn't me, but I don't think it's too late, because I think we're at a stage right now where I believe sitting here today, we can say this is the beginning of that revolution, and those who jump on board and do it in a systematic and prudent way, know what they're doing, how they're doing it, they do the research,
Of course.
They educate themselves. There's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
So what's my 401k doing? It's done pretty well over the last couple of years, like it has for most people, but I do think that pretty well is the tip of the iceberg for blockchain.
Yeah.
Pretty well is probably the worst you can do with blockchain, right? If you put a little effort into it. And who knows, right? I could be so wrong, but at the end of the day, it's something I believe in so much that I'm willing to put that on the line, because I do believe that if anything else, by me going through this exercise, it's an opportunity to to continue to educate others, and to talk about it, and to explore, and to go through a personal journey that is just something I believe in, right? If it's like climbing Everest. I mean, I don't want to relate it to climbing Everest,
but I get
it's something
it.
that is it's big. I want to climb this blockchain mountain,
Yeah, I
and
like that
conquer it,
blockchain mountain.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is just one way that I think is a great tool
It
to
is.
go through that journey.
Of course
right?
it is. Okay, so that being said, what is the approach? Because when I think of 401k, I think of it being locked up until you're 50 million years old, and not having much control over it, and just all of these things that you have to do and hurdles that you have to jump through just to be able to even get a portion of that money out, let alone a large portion. What is the approach and the step? Because it doesn't seem easy, at least to me, on how's it going to happen?
Yeah. Well, not just even what are the steps, but
Yeah.
You also got to consider consequences, tax, and even time commitment. In certain ways, there are costs. So based on some of the things that I've looked into, read articles, I talked to a couple CPAs. I gathered a lot of data on this before I decided that yes, I really do want to do this.
Of course.
Two different ways for most people. I chose take the 401k out because, as I just said, I just started my business this year. I'm not taking any income, so my tax bracket is really low right now.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity for me to take that 401k without a huge tax
Blessing
cut.
in disguise.
Right?
Yeah.
That's right. Now, I will pay taxes on that 401k, but in the long term, after about 5 years, it pays for itself based on the fees. I would be contributing on what's called a checkbook IRA or self-directed IRA.
Okay.
And so, without getting into too much details, that second version, which might, and I honestly think is a really good way for most people to do it, who are in a higher tax bracket, because you don't have to pay any taxes, right? It's tax deferred. It's like a rollover. It's the equivalent to a rollover, and you have full control over those investments, even to non-traditional investments, 401k or IRA type investments like real estate, right? If you wanted to, but getting back to blockchain. Blockchain and Bitcoin specifically, and Ethereum and a lot of the other altcoins, they are considered assets and not currency, right? Because they're considered assets, you can include that as part of a self-directed IRA and investment. Now there are fees. You do have to fill out a lot of the documentation for tax year that records those assets. You do have to set up an LLC, or a company, equivalent, but it is, tax deferred, and it is a pass-through company, so you don't have to pay, the typical, taxes on that company.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ins and outs to it, and we're gonna actually be going into depth
Yes.
in some later episodes.
Absolutely.
On that stuff, to really dig in and talk about what are the ins and outs, what's right for you based on the different situations. So I'm gonna just be taking out the 401k, and look, I'm gonna be diversified.
Yeah.
So it's not all gonna go into digital assets 100%. I'm gonna leave a little bit in traditional investments, but the majority of it
Of
is,
course,
right?
of course,
'Cause I believe in it.
absolutely, and diversification is important, right? It really is. The journey that you are about to go through, it is just so incredible, and I am so excited to be able to witness it. But most importantly, I'm so excited for people all across the world to see how it can happen, and the steps that you can take to set yourself up for success, right? Because maybe there are people out there that truly want to do this, but have no idea how to do it, and feel like the burden is just going to be way too heavy for them, and that might scare some people, maybe a lot of people.
Here's the thing. So when I was doing my research, I called at least 5 different firms, CPA firms, and self-directed, IRA type companies, and what I learned was I'm not the first person to do this. Not only that, they were like, "Oh, okay, so yeah, you want to buy Bitcoin and stuff like that, with your IRA funds? Okay, yeah, we're getting a lot of these calls. So look, this is big. A lot of people are doing it because."
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity.
Of course
right?
there is.
So, but my goal is to educate, right?
course.
My goal is to walk you through the process, show what it's like, give the real world experience, and even on the investment side, I want to share with everyone, why I chose this.
Exactly.
Right? Who's the leadership team? What's the roadmap? What's the stability of the company? What's the what's the financial situation? What's the technology going to do? And then a little bit of heart, right?
Of course.
A lot of data,
Yes.
but a little bit of heart too, right?
Absolutely.
How do I feel about that technology,
Yeah.
and how do I think it's going to impact the world, and do I think it has a future?
Definitely doing your due diligence, right? Instead of just
That's right.
jumping in and hoping for the best.
Well,
right?
yeah. So that's
Yeah.
that strategy. Is like gambling, right? It works for some people, but not all the time. And the house always wins.
Yeah, of course
Right.
it does.
So yeah, we're going to do our data, and we want to share that data with everyone.
Exactly. This is gonna be a lot of fun, and I believe that the people that are watching today, tomorrow, the next day, that are going through these same situations, are going to really respect you for putting in all the work and putting all the effort to really help them. Because people got busy lives, right? And at the end of the day, if there's at least one talking piece of truth, right, that can help guide them through this, I believe in my heart that it's going to be an amazing thing. And I'm so just honored and blessed, man, to be able to go through this own personal journey of creating the network, right?
Yeah,
Of
no
multiple different things, right? To help everyone out, right? Because this is just the beginning, right? And the future is bright, and it's going to have its ups and downs like a roller coaster. But one thing I have noticed with digital assets, cryptocurrencies, is although it does this, it continues to do this, right? And it's that underlying technology. It is the people that are involved in it. It is that word blockchain that is going to influence the way that we live our lives.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed our conversation tonight. Let's go for a quick joyride on Brock's new electric bike. Please make sure to follow and subscribe. Thanks for watching the GoldBlock Network.